Hello YouTube, how is everyone doing? It's Professional here. Welcome back to my playthrough of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. I'm really excited to do another part for you guys, and especially excited because we're starting up a brand new case here. So let's continue from where we left off. So I'm assuming we'll be arriving in London by now. That's where we left off last time. This is the third case, the third episode. There's 10 cases to solve. The Adventure of the Runaway Room.
Glancing over my records of the late last century, I am faced by the events of a certain bitter winter. A murder in a carriage as it sped through dense London fog in the dead of night. Though the victim and the perpetrator were the only ones inside, there were multiple witnesses to the crime itself. However, none could have imagined at the time that such a seemingly obvious case as this would end in such a horrendous manner. My friend, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, once said of the incident, "I believe that perhaps that case was indeed the prelude. The beginning of a long concerto that impressive Japanese student and I were to play together."
Oh, really cool. We got another anime cutscene.
Amazing. Is this really just a railway station?
Railway station or not, I've never seen such an enormous building before.
And look at all the steam locomotives. This country is incredible.
I feel like I'm dreaming.
So this is the capital of Great Britain.
So, where to?
Oh, hello.
Climb aboard. I'll take you wherever you want to go.
In that case, the Supreme Court in Whitehall, if you wouldn't mind.
My pleasure.
So they basically had these carriages like taxis back then.
Visiting students from abroad, eh?
Yes.
Thought so. Well then, I hope you enjoy your stay.
Just don't tell me Ryu gets framed for murder a third time, because that would really suck.
To the center of the world, Great Britain's mighty capital, London.
This is the Supreme Court in Great Britain. Looks like a clock tower. 18 February, 9:21 a.m. British Supreme Court. Lord Chief Justice's office. What an incredible place. It's so imposing. It's almost suffocating. This place is breathtaking. It looks like a fortress. There are some stone buildings like this in Japan now, of course, but they've only been built in a few short decades since we opened our borders to the outside world. And that's true, a lot of the buildings in Japan, at least most of them, would be made out of wood, and a lot of European buildings would be made out of stone. An authentic example like this has quite a different impact, wouldn't you agree? A far cry from the wood and paper most of our buildings are constructed from. It's certainly unfamiliar. But I think there's more to the differences than just construction materials. What is this place again? This is the Lord Chief Justice office, Naruhado-san. It's in the Supreme Court of Great Britain. The Lord Chief Justice. We had instructions to report here at this time. If circumstances were different, we were supposed to let Lord Chief Justice know we had arrived from Japan. But Kazuma can't. No. So instead, we are here in a different capacity. As envoys to report the news of Kazuma-sama's death. Yes. And having delivered his or her message on an envoy's duty is done. So, we'd have to return to Japan. If we want to remain here in Great Britain, I have to take Kazuma's place as the law student selected for the study tour. Yes, which means you need the requisite qualifications as a lawyer, which is what I've been studying for. Here in Great Britain, it is the Lord Chief Justice who appoints lawyers. So that's the second reason why we're here, to have you officially recognized as a lawyer. It's the only way that we'll be able to remain here in London. I hope I'm up to scratch. Ah, good morning. Sorry for keeping you. Who's this? I trust you aren't too exhausted after your long voyage from Japan. It seems I'm 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 47 seconds late. My apologies. Oh no, don't mention it. We're never happier that we're standing around with nothing much to do. How fortunate. So, introductions. I am Male Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice of the British Empire. And I feel like a little mouse under an elephant's foot. Come on, Mr. Naruhodo, don't be a mouse. It's an honor to meet you, Lord Chief Justice Strongheart. I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo from the Empire of Japan. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London, the capital of our glorious British Empire. Yes, thank you. So, what are your impressions of our capital so far? How do you like London? Help. I've been so nervous ever since I got here that I can't remember a single thing about the city. It's simply splendid, isn't it, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh. We had a wonderful view of some of London's streets from the carriage on the way here from the station. Everything is so impressive and grand. I must say I'm almost lost for words. I'm glad to hear you like it. The city boasts tramways, piped water, and gas, even cables supplying electricity. We spearhead every revolutionary new technology in the world. Every visitor to London is astounded. Oh yes, astounded is the word. Thanks for saving me there, Susato-san. And everyone seems so jolly and full of vigor. Yes. There's much excitement about the upcoming Great Exhibition we will be hosting here in London. Great Exhibition? Cultural and technological achievements from around the globe are to be exhibited here in our great city. It will be the greatest spectacle of its kind in history, and will make Paris's World Fair look like a toy shop. Gosh, I can hardly imagine how magnificent it's going to be. Great Britain's capital city is nothing but magnificent. London is the center of the modern world, even if you do say so yourself. The sun will never set in our great empire. Perhaps it is fate that these progressive times we welcome visitors from the land of the rising sun. Law student, okay. Lord Chief Justice, I think you were expecting a student of law for the study tour, weren't you? Absolutely. A Mr. Kazuma Soji, if my memory serves. That's right. The British government has already been telegraphed a full report on the situation. I understand the young man lost his life aboard the steamship bound for our shores. That's amazing, the news reached him before we even arrived. My country naturally extends its deepest condolences to yours. Oh, thank you. And you honored this appointment specifically to inform me of the news? Yes. We are here in the capacity of envoys from Japan to report the sad news in person. They tell me you Japanese are a people of protocol and courtesy, and I see that it's true. And it is with some regret that I must inform you that the death of the young lawyer means this study tour arrangement can no longer proceed. If you would just hear us out, Lord Strongheart, what do you have to say, madame? It's about the study tour. Mr. Naruhodo here would like to make a proposal. Would he now? Well, Mr. Naruhodo, this is it then. The moment of truth. The thing is, Lord Justice, Lord Strongheart, I was wondering if perhaps you would consider allowing the study tour to go ahead. Don't misunderstand me, Britain would ideally like to see the tour go ahead, but without a lawyer from your country, there's nothing to be done. Well, in that case, what if there was someone else? Another lawyer from Japan, I mean. Is there something I don't know? Only a single lawyer was invited to Great Britain from your country, and that was Mr. Asoji. At least that is what I've been led to understand. Well, the thing is, this really isn't going well at all. I just can't seem to find the right words to say to this man. Mr. Naruhado, I could ruin things here if I'm not careful. What am I gonna say? If there is someone else here from Japan who could be described as a lawyer, it's me. It's me. I can do it. Is that so? I mean, I don't actually have any qualifications as such, but... No qualifications, you say, and yet you still claim to be a lawyer. I have acted as a lawyer in court before. Only once, as it happens. And I had Kazuma to help me, and I was the accused, but glossing over the details. I've been spending every spare moment on the journey here to Great Britain studying. I've learned all about British law and court proceedings while I was on board the SS Buria. The voyage from Japan is some 50 days, I believe. Not what you might call a full education. To become a qualified lawyer here in Britain, not only do you need a university degree in law, you must also complete several years of training. I realize it's far too short period of a time, but I can't just go back to Japan. Kazuma, Mr. Asoji's journey has only just begun. Coming here on a study tour was all he thought about. I have to carry on to everything he planned to do. I know it must sound like I have an overly inflated opinion of myself, but I would do anything to prove that I have what it takes, and test you care to set me. Just one chance, that's all I'm asking for. Please. 31 seconds. Sorry? Your opening statement there, Mr. Naruhado, it was 31 seconds long. Not too brief, not too proactive, a perfectly judged appeal, I would say. Which is a skill that would stand you in good stead as a lawyer. Oh, thanks. So, you're willing to put those words to trial, are you? Well, I'm all for entertainment. Huh? But let me ask you one thing first, sir. Yes? You say you intend to do everything Mr. Asoji planned to do. Are you firmly set on that path? Well, yes. That's my intention. I see. Am I imagining things? Or did his expression just alter a fraction there all of a sudden? Very well. You have your wish. I'll give you a chance. A test to become a specially certified lawyer. Whether you pass or fail is entirely down to you. Really? The test, let's see. So, what form will the test take exactly? Tell me, Mr. Naruhado, what do you consider the role of a lawyer to be? Well, defending people, of course. Well said. So, let's have you defend someone. Huh? Your timing is perfect, in fact. There's an app trial about to begin later today. No advocate has been appointed for the defense as of yet, so this will be welcome news. Today? Straight away. If you manage to secure a verdict of not guilty, you'll have passed my test. What could be simpler? How do I get myself into these situations? Well, could I ask, what sort of trial is it, Lord Strongheart? Probably a murder trial. Yes. Good question. I remember. It's a murder trial, I just called it. Oh, look how the music just changes. Dun dun dun. It's a murder. An extremely simple case, I understand. You really can't lose. That's easy to say. But I should mention, just in case, if the defendant is found guilty, he will of course be sentenced to capital punishment. That means death penalty. Capital punishment? He'll be put to death. Here in Great Britain, murderers are sent to the gallows without exception. Presumably, you read that much in your short C-based introduction to British law. We can't possibly agree to such a test. We will be toying with a man's life. I am the Lord Chief Justice, and I've decided it's acceptable. But you can't do that, can you? There's no need to overcomplicate this. All I have to do is ensure that you don't lose. So the defendant may live or die, depending on how well I perform in court. Yeah. If I lose, he'll be hanged. Mr. Naruhado, you've come to me claiming to be a lawyer. If you want me to take you seriously, you need to prove you're willing to do a lawyer's job. And you say you intend to see through the will of your compatriot, Mr. Asoji. I would like to understand just how far you're willing to go in order to make that happen. He's testing my resolve. What's the matter? You've fallen silent. I'm sorry, but time is pressing. The trial begins shortly. I need an answer from you now. What's it to be? What do I say? Do I agree to the absurd test? I'll do it. Alright then. If I have to give you a decision now, my answer is... I can't do it, I can't get the words out. 15 seconds. Your decision-making needs work if you want to be a lawyer. That was too slow. So, it's as I suspected, is it? Sorry? You have noble intentions, but lack the resolve to see them through. The test is cancelled. Thank you for stopping by. Go and acquire your ticket for passage back to the east tomorrow. This conversation is over. Yes, Lord Strongheart. Thank you for offering me a chance. Well, that sucks. Mr. Naruhado, I'm sorry, Miss Susato, but what could I do? It's alright, I understand. You do? It's not an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances, but resolve has absolutely nothing to do with it. What are you trying to say, madam? I think what Miss Susato means is that no matter how badly I'd like to be recognized as a lawyer and stay here in Great Britain, to risk another man's life by treating his one and only chance at a trial so trivially would be utterly unforgivable, and I feel exactly the same way. I'm sure the defendant won't see this trial as a test, as some kind of experiment. A lawyer may fight for his clients in court day after day, but for each one of those clients, the particular day they stand in the dock may be the only chance they have to fight to prove their innocence. No, I was wrong. I'm not qualified to do that job yet. I'm sorry for wasting your precious time, Lord Chief Justice. Wait, Mr. Naruhado? Oh, was there something else? It's approximately 20 minutes by carriage to the Old Bailey from here. If you leave immediately, you should still be there in time. But I just said that I was quite serious in what I told you. The defendant in this case has literally no one to advocate for him. What? At this point, he can't hope to find someone to represent him. The trial will begin without a defense. And if that happens, there's only one possible outcome. He will receive the most severe sentence the judge can pass down. But that's awful. But that is the truth. Why does it have to be like this? Please don't expect an answer to every question. The cold, hard truth of the matter is that there is only one person now with a chance to save this man from a very miserable end. And that is you. I'm really his only hope. So, what do you say now, madam? Me, what do you mean, Lord Strongheart? You said it wasn't an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances. And I agree. But in my estimation, it is purely and simply a matter of resolve. Oh. Our time is up here. I have a meeting to attend. I must leave in 2 minutes and 16 seconds. Wow, this guy's really crazy with his time. So, venture into our great city and enjoy yourselves. He's gone. The Old Bailey. If we're going to do this, Mr. Naruhodo, we must leave at once. What to do? Miss Susato, can I just ask you something? Careful. From this position, I can perform a Susato takedown in an instant. I know. Mr. Naruhodo, you heard Lord Strongheart. The trial starts imminently. If I need to throw you, I will. You know, you could just say, I think we should hurry to the courtroom. If you need to ask me anything, it had better wait until we're at the Old Bailey. Okay, let's go, then. This is the British court now, so it's kind of, so at the start of the game we had the Japanese court, now we have the British court. And you know, look, you have the London police officers there. Oh, thank goodness, we're in time. There's still 15 minutes until the trial begins. I never knew a horse-drawn carriage could go so fast. I thought my teeth were gonna rattle loose. Did you hear what I said to the driver when we climbed aboard? Get us to our destination in 5 minutes, driver, and there's a in it for what? What does that mean? It's one of my favorite lines from Sherlock Holmes stories, and it worked quite perfectly. I'm not sure why you're so pleased. I thought we were going to die, and we had to pay gold for the privilege. Well, at least we arrived here before the trial started. Yes, I suppose there's that. Anyway, I don't understand it. The court clerk said the defendant should be here, but there's no sign of him at all. So this is the Old Bailey. Even this room for defendants to wait in is grand. Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm feeling tense, that's all. This place gives me the same sense of foreboding that I remember from the Supreme Court in Japan. An oppressive air, almost as if the building itself is going to crush whoever is about to be sentenced. It feels like only yesterday that I was the one about to be crushed. Yes, whoever the man you're to defend is, I imagine he's feeling very alone at the moment. Top of the morning to you, madame. Sir? Who's this? What are you doing following me here? Things are fair desperate, are they? Sorry? Would you look at those expressionless faces? From the east are yous? We're from Japan, yes. Ah, Japan is it, right. Say no more. So, how much do yous need? No, we're just here because... No need to explain, fella. I've been there myself, so I have. No place to go, nothing to eat, barely a penny to your name, and all while in a strange, faraway land. Well, actually, we haven't found a place to stay yet, no. This grand. Let me start by giving you 1,000... Say nothing now. Please, Miss Susato, you don't have to shout. But 1,000 is enough to build an entire mansion in the most prestigious area of Tokyo. What? Is he really rich? This nothing to me at all. I like to ensure that I have sufficient funds to weather a rainy day, you see. I have enough wealth to buy the city of London 2 or 3 times over. Could that much rain even fall in one day? Well, even so, we couldn't possibly accept a large sum of money. Ah, that hit me in the eye. Is he the defendant? Don't get me wrong, fella. I'm not giving you no strings attached. I'll be wanting you to do something for me. Oh? To be honest, 'tis a little embarrassing. The trial that's about to begin, you see, is for me good self here. I'll be in the dock. So now, what I want you to do is come along with me and stand there besides me. Officially, you'd be my lawyer, but that's just a little detail now. Oh well, the thing is, don't worry about a thing. All you have to do is stand up there next to me, nothing more. Otherwise, you see, the trial is going to start without me having any kind of representation at all. So it was true. The Lord Chief Justice wasn't just making it up. I'm terribly sorry to have to ask, but does that mean you're the defendant in this trial? Bluster and blazes, do yous not know who I am? Me, one of London's biggest names. No, sorry. We've only just arrived in the city, you see. I see. I suppose it isn't altogether impossible. Well, just next to Hyde Park, there in the center of London, is another beautiful park. Sorry? A park? What? Tis called McGilded Park, full of blossoming flowers in the spring and singing birds and whatnot. I donated it to the city, so I did. An entire park in central London? A city of smiles. That's my vision for London. There's nothing Magnus McGilded wouldn't do for the city and its queer, old people. That's amazing. I mean, really extraordinary. But now they've the gall to say I'm a good-for-nothing criminal. Me, Magnus McGilded. What is the matter with the London police, I ask you? Ha ha. Ha. Alright, don't pass out. I'm curious about this case. What happened, Mr. Naruhado? Perhaps now would be a good time to introduce ourselves while the gentleman catches his breath. Good idea. Ha ha ha. Mr. Gilded. The thing is, we're actually here in London to study British law. We're law students on a study tour from Japan, you see. Ha ha ha. So, if you don't have a lawyer for the trial yet, and you'd be happy to put yourself in our hands, we'll do our best. What was I after saying, you daft east? I've given you 1,000 to stand up there next to me, haven't I? Well, yes, but I wasn't really offering to just stand there next to you. Oh, I think I see what's going on here. Sorry? I know what you're thinking. This Chancellor of a fella claims to have more money than the Queen, but if that's true, why the blazes can't he hire the finest lawyer in all of England? That is actually a point, because he did it. That's the only explanation. Well? Well? I mean, it is a point, let's say exactly. Yes, exactly. What now? Well, like you said, if you have all that money but you don't have anyone to represent you in court, there's no other logical conclusion that you're guilty of the charges. Oh wait, that's not what I meant. Oh, that's not what I made a mistake. Well, you call a spade in the East, so you do. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean any offense. I still can't express myself very well in English, you see. And I'm never sure what's acceptable to say and what isn't so. Is that so? Because you sounded fluent enough when you were telling me what a blackguard I must be. I'm terribly sorry. I can't say that I blame you for thinking it, fella. It is a little strange, to be honest. Why you don't have a lawyer, I mean. That would be the fault of the Reaper. Reaper? Sorry, did he just say the Reaper? Or what does he mean, Reaper? The Grim Reaper of the Bailey, Lord Barrack Van Ziex. He's the prosecutor. The prosecutor is the Grim Reaper? Wait, I don't understand. When Van Ziex stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. And to this day, in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. What? So it's reached a desperate situation. So is this guy like a relative of Von Karma, I'm assuming? So it's reached the desperate situation where there's no one willing to stand defense against the fella at all. You could say he's living a legend of the Old Bailey. Goodness. Lord Barrack Von Ziex, he must be exceptionally talented prosecutor then. Talented isn't the word you're looking for, madam. It's cursed. Cursed? What on earth? The defendant is summoned and his counsel. Please make your way into the courtroom. The trial is about to begin. His counsel, that would be me. Oh, 'tis time. Well then, fella. Don't let me down. But I don't know anything about the case. You haven't told me what happened. Until you showed your face here, I made up me mind, so I had. Sorry? I decided I'd have to defend myself in there. How would that have worked? But then you made an appearance. A student of law, wouldn't you know? 'Tis no accident, I can assure ya of that. 'Tis fate. So don't get cold feet now, please. I literally know nothing about the case, or about this man who stands accused. In fact, the only thing I do know is that I can't just turn my back on him. Mr. Naruhodo, the man has no one. He'll have to stand alone in that courtroom, armed with nothing to defend himself. Yes, something that Kazuma would never have allowed to happen. Counsel for the defense, what are you doing? If you're late for the start of the trial, you will lose your right to stand. I'll be right there. Okay, let's do this then. It's happening then. My first trial in a British court. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma, because I have no idea how I'm gonna manage this. This is gonna be interesting. So this is the highest court in Great Britain. The Old Bailey. The centuries of history in this place is palpable, isn't it? It's no different than the Supreme Court in Japan. It feels both imposing and serene at the same time. The atmosphere almost makes words redundant. And that's the jury. Whatever the country, determining a person's guilt or innocence is always a solemn affair. May I say something, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, yes, what? Look how nervous he looks. Your eyes look ready to pop out of your head again. I know, but I just can't help it. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are here today to determine the guilt or innocence of Mr. Magnus McGilded. I now call upon the counsel for the prosecution defense to declare their willingness to proceed. Do I have a case file? I don't have a case file yet. The prosecution is fully prepared. What is this guy, like a vampire or something? That must be the Reaper of the Bailey. He really does look fully prepared to dispatch his next poor victim to the underworld. Counsel for the defense. You appear to be Eastern. Do you speak English? Huh? Oh, yes, of course. Sorry. But he asked if the defense was ready. And I couldn't be further from ready if I tried. Those eyes please me. Nipponese? They shroud your fear, your doubt, your trepidation. They run wild, clinging to some phantom notion of courage. The quintessential look of a sacrificial lamb. Man, this what a creep. A cold shiver just ran down my spine all the way to the tips of my toes. And the judge is Santa Claus. Now, Mr. McGilded. Yes, my lord. You stand accused of murder, a capital offense. You could be sent to the gallows if found guilty. Are you quite sure you wish to entrust your defense to this foreigner? As I've always said, my lord, 'tis a grand thing to give opportunities to young. Even if the fella's a student from some little island off in the Far East. I wouldn't say Japan is a little island. It is not the British way to ignore the dangers to ye self and give those less fortunate a fair chance? Is it not the British way to ignore the dangers of ye self and give it to those less fortunate of a fair chance? I'd like to think that acts of chivalry do the great British Empire proud. Listen to Mr. McGilded, what a fine gentleman London has in him. Did you hear that he donated 5,000 pounds to the government the other day? Mother, please, may we go and play McGilded Park? It seems as though everyone in the public gallery is firmly behind Mr. McGilded. Well, that is good. That's definitely welcome news, and he certainly has a way with words. I'm surprised he couldn't convince anyone to defend him. Eloquently put, Mr. McGilded, and most laudable sentiments. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm sure I need hardly remind you that you 6 members of the public have been selected for your impartiality. Are you ready to proceed? Does that guy have a switchblade? Why does he have a switchblade in court? You can't bring that into court. What are you doing? Yes, my lord. If the task is to send rotters to the gallows where they belong, I'm more than ready. Okay. At the manor, his lordship always says we should dispose of rubbish promptly. Naturally, I agree. Ha! Any criminals here will be wishing they never set eyes on me. Is he drinking in the court? You can't do that either. What the hell is wrong with this jury? These people are insane. Oh, don't mind me, my dears. I'll just be getting on with my knitting. Must finish these mitts for my grandson. You can't knit in court, lady. It's... Mr. Naruhodo, those people are the jury, yes, and they're mad. That's something we don't have in Japan yet. That's right. I've only ever read about it. But here in Great Britain, the court's final verdict depends on the opinions of these 6 jurors. The judge passes sentence according to law, but the jurors determine guilt based on common sense. So the defendant is ultimately judged from 2 completely different points of view. But how exactly do the jurors give their verdict? That I don't know, but I'm sure it will become clear as the trial progresses. Yes. Prosecutor Van Zieks. My lord. It's been a number of years since we've seen you in here in the courtroom. I thought you renounced your fame. I'm known as the Reaper of the Bailey, my lord. Infamy rather than fame, I would say. But yes, 5 years have passed since I last spread my wings in this capacity. Okay, well, it seems that everyone in the British court in this game is mad. So what brings you back? Is there some change of circumstance of which the court should be aware? I leave that to your imagination, my lord. So the Reaper has been out of action for 5 years. Why did he have to choose today of all days to make a comeback? Don't lose heart, Mr. Naruhodo. As you wish, sir. The court nevertheless welcomes your return. Now then, opening statements, I think. A summary of the case, if you please. Certainly, my lord. As your lordship is aware, this is a case of overwhelming simplicity. We must be the only ones in here who aren't aware. What exactly happened? The incident took place in the late evening, 3 days past. The hour was some minutes after 10. The victim was a maker of building bricks known as the community as Thrice Fired Mason. Sorry, Thrice? He was a very accomplished craftsman. The bricks he fired were said to be almost indestructible. The victim's corpse was discovered in an omnibus in service on the streets of London at the time. A dagger that had been thrust into the victim's abdomen is believed to be the ultimate cause of death. Here's the autopsy report from the investigating medical officer at Scotland Yard. Oh no, the autopsy report. That's such a meme in the Ace Attorney community. Thank you, counsel. I shall accept that and the photograph as evidence. A report prepared by Scotland Yard coroner gives the cause of death as internal hemorrhaging as a result of a single stab wound to the abdomen. The photograph of the crime scene has been entered into the court record. Okay. And one further item of evidence. The prosecutor wishes to submit these as well. And these are? Good lord. Is that blood, counsel? Yes, my lord. Seized by a policeman who arrived at the scene. These gore-soaked gloves were taken from the hands of the accused when he was arrested. What? Mr. McGilded's gloves had blood on them? Yes, I will accept these evidence as well. The leather gloves the defendant was wearing at the time of the incident. There is a blood stain on the right glove. How did I get into this? I'm back to the quarter before I've even started. Continuing. According to the driver of the omnibus, there was only 2 passengers traveling inside his vehicle at the time. Only 2. Obviously, one of those passengers was the deceased brickmaster, Mr. Mason. The other was the accused, Magnus McGilded. Well, rather damning circumstances to say the least. Defendant, what say you? Well, of course, I have no recollection of such a thing. Mr. McGilded. To be sure, I rode the omnibus that evening. But whenever I'm in a carriage, I'm taken with fierce tiredness, and I always succumb to it. Are you claiming to have been asleep? 'Tis the motion of the carriage, my lord, so it is. And when I opened my eyes again, 'twas a desperate sight before me, the body of a man I'd never laid eyes on before in me life. So he kind of speaks in, like, old-fashioned kind of English, when he says me, like, Now I ask yous, what a good-hearted soul would it rush to help a fella bleeding from his stomach? I wasn't about to start worrying about me gloves now, was I? I reached out to give the man a hand, so the blood got onto the gloves then after the man had been killed. Unfortunately, that statement of the driver's is only the beginning. What? That's not all of it? There were multiple witnesses to the precise moment at which the brickmaster was fatally stabbed. Order, order, order. When the killing took place, only the victim and the accused were inside the carriage, and there was witnesses to the crime. This is not just a case of compelling evidence. It's the nail in the coffin for the accused. Something's not right here. Thank you, counsel. The circumstances of the crime have been made quite clear. I think we will hear testimony from these witnesses first of all. Your wish is my command. Okay, I can't wait to cross-examine the witness. Bailiff, bring in the witness at once. I want to hear what the witness has to say. Okay, now you see, this is unrealistic, because in court, you wouldn't have 3 witnesses testifying at once. You know, they could all contradict each other, and they're more likely to say the same thing. So, you want to have each witness testify by themselves. You're not going to have 3 witnesses testify at once. This would never happen. I mean, this is a video game, and maybe Victorian law was different back then, but I know this would not happen in an American court of law. My name is, well, everyone calls me Beppo. Well, you're shivering. I drive an omnibus in the East End. Bruce Fairplay. I'm a banker in the city. My name's First. Lady First. I make hats for the gents. Let's begin by confirming the facts. 3 days ago, at a short time after 10 o'clock in the evening, all of you present at the stand were in omnibus and witnesses to the aforementioned incident. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Quite right. Yes, sir. That's right, sir. Very well, then. Let's proceed to your formal testimonies, please. Each of you will tell the court precisely what you saw. Okay, I want to hear this. Witness testimony. What the witnesses saw. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had a few customers. I remember it well. So this guy's the driver. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Then, out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts. I doubt it. That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did. Couldn't help it. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus, and then I saw it too. Okay, so the driver didn't see it. Ambiguous testimony, I must say. Exactly, my lord. These men witnessed the incident in the omnibus with their own eyes. I'd like to ask a question, if I may. Yes, counsel. Well, this testimony makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Why not? Well, the incident took place inside a moving carriage, didn't it? As has been clearly stated from the outset, yes. Well, in that case, how could those two witnesses possibly have seen what happened? There's no way they could have seen the inside of the moving carriage. That is a good point. How quaint. I read that civilization of the Eastern Island nations was a good century behind our own. Man, this guy's a scumbag. But you're here in London yourself. Are you really so ignorant about our omnibuses? Huh? Tell me, my Nipponese friend, have you ever traveled in an omnibus? Well, no. We have only arrived in London this morning. No matter. I've arranged for us all to see for ourselves, the actual scene of the crime, that is. What? What do you mean? The actual scene how? A carriage is designed to be moved, after all. Presumably you understand that much. Yes. The omnibus in which the bloody crime took place is here today in this very building. Here. What? The entire carriage. Bailiff. Bring forth the stricken omnibus. How did you get it in the court? And yet, how would you see something like that in there too? So that's the omnibus. The omnibus. I can't believe they could bring something so enormous in here. Great Britain's courtrooms are amazing. As you can see, the omnibus is pulled by 2 horses and can carry up to 8 passengers. 4 passengers seated inside in the enclosed cabin and another 4 on the rooftop deck above. Every Londoner knows that the best views of the city's architecture and sights are to be had from the top of the omnibus. And I should point out to our foreign guests that there is a skylight in the roof, allowing a view of the interior from the seats above. A skylight. The penny drops at last, I see. These 2 gentlemen were occupying the rooftop seats on this omnibus when the murder took place. That is how they came to witness the grim incident. Through the skylight. Ah, that makes perfect sense. Well, counsel, this is a first. In all my years behind the bench, I never experienced the crime scene itself being brought into the courtroom. There are a number of important clues remaining inside the carriage, my lord. I would like to submit the omnibus itself as evidence. That is the prosecutor's wish. Very well. I see no reason why not. The omnibus is hereby formally accepted as evidence. There are passengers both inside the carriage and on the deck that night. I can't believe it. The entire crime scene entered as evidence. Yes, Great Britain is simply extraordinary. I could help myself a lot by giving the omnibus a thorough examination, seeing as it's here. Let us continue with proceedings then. Your cross-examination, counsel. Pray, don't expect this Nipponese stray to understand the intricacies of a British court's cross-examination rights. Well, you're gonna see in a moment, Van. I'm gonna prove you wrong. Alright. My first cross-examination in a British court. Focus, Ryunosuke. Cross-examination, here we go. What the witnesses saw. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had few customers. I remember it well. Let's press. Yes, I think it was sometime after 10, wasn't it? Oh yes, sir. That's right, sir. Ever so cold was it? Freezing, in fact. And you had 4 passengers on board at the time, is that correct? Yes, that's right, sir. Not all traveling in the same parts of the bus, of course, though, no. And there was no other passengers where the incident took place. No one alighted, for example. You're quite right with that, sir. No other passengers like that. No one, none. So nobody fled the scene of the crime, then. It means it has to be one of them. But I do wonder sometimes if it's altogether worthwhile. Yes. Sorry to say. What do you mean by that? Well, what with it being so cold and everything, and only making 20 pence on the run, you see. Yes, I spend that much at the pub on the way home, just trying to warm up again. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Now this, he's not giving us eye contact.
Hold it!
And you saw them through the skylight in the roof of the carriage. That's right. When you sit on top of the deck, the window's right there at your feet. There was a lamp on inside, so I had a pretty good view. The two of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't make exactly their faces. But there's not a shred of doubt in my mind that it was Mr. McGilded. How can you be so sure? Well, how can I put it politely? McGilded is a gentleman of rather small stature. I couldn't have mistaken him for anybody else. Let's not forget that when the vehicle came to a halt, the only people inside the enclosed cabin were the deceased Mr. Mason and Mr. McGilded. There is no room for doubt here. Ugh. I really wish there was. Then out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts.
Hold it!
You actually saw the exact moment it happened. Didn't I already testify to that? Or are fair dinkum hard-working city bankers not considered trustworthy these days? Oh, no. I didn't mean that. This is no good. I've really got his back up. Perhaps you could just tell us what you saw in a little more detail, if that's... My lord? Juror number 3, what's the meaning of this? My mind is made up, my lord. Completely and utterly made up. Made up about what? I don't like the stinking rich. Never have. They're always up to something or other that they shouldn't be. Every one of them. And that little leprechaun of a man is no exception. Well, he can't fool me. There's no point wasting time listening to any more of this. That's my opinion on the matter anyway. That is precisely what I was about to say. As the foreman of the jury, it's my duty to set a good example to my fellow jurors. You can't decide yet. The trial's not even started. They barely started. What the? What is happening here? Let me see. Ah, yes. It seems that's how the members of the jury give their verdicts. With fire? Apparently, yes. White for innocent, and black for guilty. As the 6 members of the jury make up their minds about the case, one by one, they each cast a ball of fire into the great scales of justice that we saw a moment ago. So if those enormous scales fall completely to the black side, does that mean... Let's do our very best to make sure this happened. Ugh. Now I'm even more worried than I was before. Very well, the court acknowledges the change of the jury stance. Counsel for the defense, please continue for cross-examination. This is a nightmare. That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did. I couldn't help it. Also, we're gonna save here just to be safe.
Hold it!
He stabbed him, you say? And you were sitting up on the roof deck, were you? Yes, that's right, sir. I was up on the roof seats. I remember seeing the little jet sitting next to the fella that was stabbed. I've been thinking about a new hat design, you see, so I was just gazing absent-mindedly around. But then I happened to look down through the skylight. It was sticking right out from his belly, that huge great knife. A grim sight indeed. Ah, that didn't help me at all. Is she cleaning? The jury looks like they're even more convinced my client did it than they were before. That appears to have made everyone even more dubious that Mr. McGillen is telling the truth. If only we had some evidence to counter their suspicions. Mr. First. Oh, yes, yes, sir? Is this the knife you saw? Oh, good grief. Yes, that's it. The very one, sir. Is it that? Yes, counsel. This is the blade that was driven into the victim's belly like a stake through the heart. That is the blade of a considerable size, counsel. It is, and furthermore, the scabbard is emblazoned prominently with a certain initial. The letter M, which seems oddly familiar. Please, no. M for Magnus, perhaps, or McGilden, possibly. Take your pick. It seems this particular big name in London made a magnificent mistake.
Objection.
I don't think if somebody was committing a murder, they'd leave a knife like that. But there are M's everywhere. Like, yes, like in Mason.
Objection!
The blade is far too extravagant for a poor brick master to have owned. No, this weapon of murder almost certainly belongs to the accused. Ugh. Not conclusive, but certainly compelling, counsel. My lord, if you'll forgive the interruption. Juror number 2, go on. Mr. McGilden is a pillar of society, and a gentleman's word should be sacrosanct. However, those of us in service know we must accept hard truths. Wait. Dispose of the rubbish. Oh, come on. No. I don't wish to cause offense, but I do like to eradicate all traces of filth and grime. I have painstakingly typed every word uttered here today and cross-referenced all the facts. As such, I am now in position to draw the only logical conclusion. But you didn't let the cross-examination finish. Not again. That's 4 out of 6 jury members who proposed a guilty verdict. There are only 2 left. We've had it. Every time I press those witnesses for more information, I just make the situation worse. Nevertheless, what we need more than anything at the moment is more information. We're still very much in the dark. I suppose I'll just have to keep pressing the witnesses, knowing that more sparks may well fly. We mustn't give up hope that we'll uncover something that will give us a way to fight back. But... alright, I'll keep trying. I can't give up. I just need to keep calm and listen to the witnesses' statements again. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus, and then I saw it too.
Hold it!
What exactly did you see? Oh, well, sir, that would be... passenger, sir, collapsed on the floor he was. And by the passenger, obviously you're referring to the victim, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. And by the other passenger, had the knife in his hand, like this. By the other passenger, obviously you're referring to the accused, Mr. Magnus McGilden. And then he plunged it down like this, stabbing the passenger in the belly. What? No, wasn't it only just one stab? My lord, I wish to speak. Oh no, come on, don't be an idiot too. Yes, juror number 5, do I take it you... as the master of the London Guild of Coachmen, the idea of a murder being committed in one of the city's carriages is utterly abhorrent to me. It wouldn't be right to make a decision before hearing all the facts, though, I said to myself. But I've heard enough now. The horse has bolted, as they say. No, please, just keep an open mind a little... G up now, Silver Blaze. The finish is in sight. Beepo is a long-standing member of the guild, and I trust what the man says. Oh, thank you, sir. You're too kind, sir. Ugh. This is too unkind, sir. Which now means that 5 jurors agree to condemn this man. It all comes down to Granny that's knitting, oh man. Madam Juror number 6. Yes, dear? What can I do for you? You have heard the testimonies of the witnesses in the stand. Oh yes, I certainly have. Still got my hearing, you know. Then, pray tell, why are you yet to pronounce your leaning? Well, dear, the thing is, I'm a creature of habit, me. I always go to the park at around this time of day, and sit on a nice bench and get on with my knitting. There's a lovely little park just near where I live. McGilded Park, it's called. The gentleman donated it to the city, you know, to put a smile on Londoners' faces, he said. I can't imagine such a fine, young gentleman would have it in him to take another man's life. He is always doing wonderful things for the city. That's right, a man like that wouldn't stab someone, surely. Mother, may we go to the McGilded Public Library later on and borrow some more books? How many Londoners live with their heads in the clouds? Do you people not know? What kind of a man Magnus McGilded really is? What kind of man is he? The philanthropist Magnus McGilded has enough wealth to purchase the entire city he claims to value so highly. But where did all that wealth come from? Your client is a Shylock, sir, and one with the very darkest of souls. What? Stoned the crowds. McGilded lends money extortionate rates of interest, so his victims have no hope of repaying him. When they default, he takes possession of everything they own. He is a vulture that preys on the weak. I've never heard any mention of that before. Your faculties haven't deserted you, I'm sure, ma'am. So has this thought not crossed your mind? Would a man wealthy enough to buy London entirely not have a carriage of his own? What possible reason could this man have had to make use of a public omnibus service? You're not saying that the victim, a poor brickmaker, had next to nothing in his name, save considerable financial liability. It will come as no surprise his creditor was the accused, Magnus McGilded. But let it also be known that the very day Mr. Mason was killed, the final repayment day for his debts. Good gracious. The brickmaster was destitute. He had lost his house. He had not a shilling worth to repay his debts. And in the end, this pitiful soul had the very last thing he owned taken from him, his life. By the merciless philanthropist pretender, Magnus McGilded. I don't believe it.
Hold it!
If I might add something briefly, Miss Susato. You claim that the victim had been lent money by Mr. McGilded. Where's the evidence to support your claim? You can't drink in court. Pray forgive the discourtesy of filing my hallowed chalice in the court of law. Aha, there it is. Lord Bank's hallowed chalice. How can this be considered acceptable exactly? But I find myself in unexpectedly good humor. I had heard ladies from the Far East could show great courage, but I didn't expect to experience it myself. As a judicial assistant defense, I'm simply doing my job. What a pity that your display of courage is in vain. This is the debtor's ledger, which details all monies loaned by the accused. You will find the victim's name clearly recorded inside. Oh. Allow me to present this ledger as evidence. And pray forgive the discourtesy of raising my chalice in a toast to the enigmatic East at the same time. A marvelous toast, counsel. I will gladly accept this new evidence. The debtor's ledger has been entered into the court record. Okay. Yes, 20... Is that a lot of money? The victim owned a considerable sum, and the accused made quite certain he had ample recompense. Well, it would seem I've had the wool pulled over my eyes. Regrettably, madam, this is the modus operandi of the accused. That's the MO, and it's such a pretty little park, too. What a scoundrel. No, don't do it. Still. Maybe it's all for the best. Wait a minute. Let's think about this a little more before. I don't stand for nonsense. That was it. The last juror's decision. You can't decide this early in the case. According to this Encyclopedia of British Law, when all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. That's what it says here. The final verdict. It's over then. Oh. There's a footnote, though. A footnote. However, the defense... All 6 members of the jury are now in agreement in this case. There's something off here. Allow me to convey my respect for your swift and righteous decision. According to the laws of this country, I will now conclude the trial by delivering my final verdict. I trust there are no objections. Miss Susato, just tell me one thing. Oh, yes? You were in the middle of saying something before. The footnote in your Encyclopedia of British Law. However, the defense... What did it say next? Oh, yes. Of course. One moment. When all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. Then the footnote says, however, the defense has the right to demand a summation examination of the jurors at this point. Perfect. A summation examination.
Objection!
A summation examination? From which century has that tome you have there been resurrected? Judging from the binding, I would say that book is at least 50 years old. Any modern text in British law wouldn't even give such an antiquated procedure a mention. It's a relic, long forgotten and certainly no longer practiced. So you're out of luck. Oh. What even is it, Miss Susato? This so-called summation examination. Oh. One moment and I'll read about it. You would demand the right to procedure before you even understand what it entails? Typical. Wow, this guy. Alright, Mr. Naruhodo, I think I understand. It seems that under this procedure, we will be able to appeal to the members of the jury. To do what, exactly? Appeal to them to change their leaning and reverse their decisions. And it says here that, if successful, the proceedings of the trial must be resumed. Make them reverse their decisions. Yes, times gone by, barristers would use a summation examination to attempt to influence the jury's decision, but that procedure became something of a formality, with no practical benefit really, so it rather fell out of use. I wonder why. Because of idiot prosecutors like this. Because it was devoid of purpose. Changing just one member of the jury's mind would be hard enough, let alone several. No self-respecting defense barrister would even assert his right to try in this day and age. I think we can. Still, I don't see any mention of the procedure actually being formally revoked. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that, although it may be antiquated and largely forgotten, it isn't yet extinct, which means it's still law. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? A summation examination. Our last possible option. Do we assert our right to carry it out or admit defeat? Assert our right. The defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination, my lord.
Objection!
London is the capital city of the most powerful nation on earth. We have a duty to the world to exemplify the very highest standards of judicial procedure. Summation examinations are an embarrassment that should remain buried.
Objection!
Damn, this lightning outside is a big thunderstorm where I'm at. But if it's our right, it's our right. I believe it could prove vital in this trial. The defense petition is perfectly valid. The court will proceed. The summation examination. This is madness. Foreman, are you and the remainder of the jury ready? Well, I'm not, There was no mention of this in the letter I received, you see, so... No, you're the stupid juror. You passed the verdict way too early. Now you're gonna get, examined. All members of the jury will be asked to explain on what grounds they have reached their decision. On what grounds? Exactly! You must all justify your decision and explain why you believe the defendant to be guilty. Well, my lord, you're rather putting us on the spot. You're putting a guy on the spot! You're about to hang a guy! This is most irregular. No mention was made of this before. I don't really hold with all this justifying lark. That seems to have thrown the jurors off. It seems none of them have experienced this before. Alright then. The summation examination. A defense procedure no practicing lawyer has attempted for years, is it? Well, just maybe. It might be the opportunity we've been looking for. To turn this trial around. So be it then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. The court hereby calls upon you to state the grounds on which you find the defendant, Magnus McGilded, guilty of the most serious crime. Judicial findings. Okay, this is new. I'm not used to this now in the new Ace Attorney. There was no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it has to have been him. I trust the driver. He has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers with fares totaling 20 pence. He stuck the chap next to him, just like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen. I have simply typed and collected all the statements made thus far and drawn a logical conclusion. You can trust the guild. Fair face is our motto. We haven't raised prices above 4 pence for years. The scoundrel stabbing the poor man on the floor. It beggars belief. I'm starting to wish I hadn't pushed for this now. Some of the jurors don't seem to have wonderfully formed arguments though, do they? Well, let's see what we can do. We need to get these 6 people to change their minds. I'll have to throw everything I can at them. And use some very persuasive language. Just a moment, Mr. Naruhodo. According to my book, that's not quite how it works. Oh? I thought I was going to have to throw their icy minds with some heartwarming rhetoric about the defendant. Unfortunately, once the jurors have decided the defendant is guilty, they're unlikely to heed anything the defense says. But then, they've reached their conclusion by their own reasoning, you see. Your pleas will sound like excuses. In fact, it could recoil on you. The more you try to persuade them, the more entrenched they may become. Then what on earth am I supposed to do? Oh dear. I'm just citing what I've read about British law, Mr. Naruhodo. Right. I'm sorry. Do you have any idea how to make this work then? Well, from what I can understand, the key to this procedure is using the jurors' own words to make your arguments. What do you mean? It means finding contradictions. Well, the 6 members of the jury are randomly selected members of the public. They may appear to present a united front, but the truth is, they are complete strangers who just happen to find themselves here in the courtroom together. And that's the way to break them down, you mean? Yes, exactly. We must listen very carefully to what each member of the jury says, and see if we can identify any contradictory statements. If we can, we then contrast the statements and pit the corresponding jurors against each other. I see. So it's contradictions in what 2 or more jurors say that we're looking for. In a way, then. This is similar to a regular cross-examination. Oh, yes. I suppose you're right. Find contradictions in their statements and pit the jurors against one another to break them down. Okay, let's do this. All right, I might be able to pull this off. No, that's not right. I have to pull this off. Can we start proceedings, counsel? I would ask you to take the stand for this. I'm expecting a clear and concise rebuttal. Yes, my lord. The defense's rebuttal. There was no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it has to have been him. Okay, so what we're looking for now is we're looking for something that will contradict each of these against each other. Stabbing that poor man on the floor? Wait. Single stab wound to the abdomen. And then he says next to him and then on the floor. Hit?
Objection!
Those two statements are completely contradictory. What? Explain, counsel, post haste. Oh, dearie me. I was only knitting in a jumper for my other half. What is all this claptrap? What does contradictory even mean, I ask you? It means it doesn't make sense. It means it cancels out the other statement. We've heard from more than one witness that they allegedly saw the actual moment the defendant stabbed the victim. Now, out of curiosity, juror number 3. What? Can you see that I'm busy here? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim? What sort of motion was it? Ha, wanna test me, do you? It was like this, stuck the fella next to him without even getting up, just like the prim banker said. Yes, that was Mr. Fairplay's testimony, quite true. Now then, juror number 6. Oh, is that me, is it? What can I do for you, young man? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim, Adam? Oh, well, dear, as far as I understand it, it was like this. He stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. See, that's contradictory. The coachman said so. Now, don't move. Take a look at these two jurors. He stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up. And he stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. Well, I never. They're stabbing in totally different directions. Bless my stitches, what a muddle. What this tells us is that there's a strong possibility one of the witnesses isn't telling the truth. Oh, but why the dickens would they lie? I don't know that yet, but what I do know is that if the trial ends at this point, we may never find out. We may never know the real truth. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you really let that happen in all good conscience? Lies, you say? Oh, dearie me. Well, Grandma's not gonna like liars. I can't abide by people telling lies. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. The scales. I don't believe it. Wait. Now hear this, my fellow jurors. I warn you, you cannot listen to this man. Look at him in his black suit. He's clearly some devious Eastern sorcerer using magic on us all. What an idiot. If I could use magic, do you really think I'd be putting myself through all of this? Answer me this, dark jinx. Huh? Me? What exactly is the problem? What if two witnesses have slightly different recollections of the events? What of it? Let's say the Shylock did stab the victim as he was sat next to him on the omnibus, and this young dandy saw him do it. And now let's say the victim collapsed on the floor, and then the Shylock stabbed him again. No, it was only one stab, and this old lady saw him do it. Well, what's it to say it didn't happen like that, hmm? Who are you calling a dandy, sir? Why I should take this knife to you? Who are you calling old? Why I should take this needle to you? Huh. They're ready to kill each other now. But could the foreman of the jury be right? Did the two witnesses see two different moments of the same crime? Two different moments of the same crime is out of the question. Unfortunately, Mr. Foreman. What is it, you dark jinx? Come on, out with it. What you're suggesting is impossible. It's out of the question. What are you talking about, man? How can you possibly say that? You do realize that I'm only doing my job. As foreman of the jury, I have a responsibility to steer everyone in the right direction. You're steering everyone in the wrong direction right now. So where's your evidence, man? What we want to see. I say the two witnesses saw two different moments of the same crime. No, the autopsy. If you say that's out of the question, Summation proof. It looks like the only way I'm going to convince him, present him with something he can't dismiss. Some irrefutable hard evidence. As you wish. What? I'll give you the proof. It's out of the question that two witnesses saw two different moments of the same crime as proven by single stab wound. There wasn't two stab wounds, one on the ground, too. This.
Take that!
This is the victim's autopsy report. According to what's written here, Mr. Mason was stabbed in the abdomen. Only once. Only once? It's quite simple. The victim was stabbed precisely one time. Which means those witnesses cannot possibly seen it happen two different times. Alright, I concede defeat. There we go. Well done, Mr. Naruhado, you did it. If we can manage to change two more jurors' minds, we can force the trial to continue. Two more. Actually, there is something else that's bothering me about a couple of their assertions. That's where you must strike next. So I need to pit two more jurors against each other and show there's another contradiction. Exactly. You can do it. Okay, we can do this. Well, the scales of justice have shifted, but they still weigh heavy on the side of guilt. Counsel, you have the floor again. Continue with your summation examination. I'm no lover of the rich, but I despise liars even more. Innocent is my call for now. There was no one else in that carriage, so it'd have to have been him. I trust the driver. He has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers with fares totaling 20 pence. I'm no lover of the rich. Okay. Okay, so it's the jurors that are still four passengers with fares totaling 20 pence. That means that it will be 5 pence each passenger? Right here, isn't that a contradictory? Wait. The prices.
Objection!
These two statements contradict each other. They do? Explain yourself, counsel. Me, oh dear, what have I said? I swear it's Silla's main name. I haven't the first idea what you're talking about. According to the group testimony we've heard so far, there were 4 passengers on the omnibus on the night in question. And according to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 20 pence in fares. Quite right. I have those precise details typed neatly here right in front of me. Well, that's gonna help. And juror number 5 also told us the following. The fare for the omnibus is always 4 pence. That it is a fair and convenient single price, just the way London's carriages should be operated. But that doesn't add up at all. In fact, it leaves a glaring discrepancy in the facts. Why, man, why? 4 passengers paying 4 pence each. If you do the multiplication, it will be 16 pence, which means that there has to have been a 5th passenger that we're not talking about. Exactly. As I said, it doesn't add up. The figures are different. By 4 pence, in fact. Or precisely 1 person's fare. 1 person's fare. Yes, in other words, the omnibus that night, it's distinctively possible there was another passenger we've heard nothing about. Now we're going somewhere. We got this now. This can't be right. The coachmen of the guild are good, honest men, one and all. Trustworthiness is our watchword. The figures your coachman claims most certainly do not add up. Your watchword is a fallacy. I beg your pardon. Mr. Guildmaster, I think you ought to consider that if this trial were to end now, the news will surely spread all over London. The news that one of your coachmen tried to hide the fact that he lets nefarious characters ride his omnibus. Alright then, how do I make it so this miserable trial doesn't end, Well, according to my book here, you simply launch a ball of fire onto the innocent side of the scales. Now hold your horses there, coachman. We were all in agreement. Why do you have to go and... Wait till I get my hands on you, Beppo. There we go. Ah, this is all very irritating. Begging your pardon, sir. I'm going to do the same. Yes! For the love of Mike, not you as well. A penny can be the difference between a smile and a tear, after all. I certainly can't put my trust in someone who doesn't follow my exacting standards in financial matters. Oh, really? I, for one, think it's only proper that we hear from the witnesses again. Wait. That means... 4 jurors are now leaning to not guilty. We've done it, Mr. Naruhodo. We've won. What are you playing at, you dandy fool? Shut your trap, sir. No one deceives me. But we had a consensus. I said shut your trap. I know a liar when I see one, and if the chap ever dares to cross the threshold of my shop, I'll take this razor-sharp blade and shave every last hair off his head. Please tell me he's a barber. Well, in a quite remarkable turn of events, the defense's summation examination has flipped the balance of the scales of justice. The jurors now stand at 2 for guilty and 4 for not guilty. Accordingly, there is no longer a large enough majority among the jury for me to adjudicate, and the trial must continue. We got it. We're doing good now. I hereby ask the defense, prosecution, and witnesses to return to their places, and I call upon all of you to continue to pursue the truth. So, Lord Van Zieks, continue to substantiate the case for the prosecution, if you please. Now he's gonna be drinking in court. Oh, he's pissed. Having savored the rich Norma aroma of the carmine contents of this hallowed chalice. It may seem crass to crush it to dust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Ziex? Is it cold in here, or is it just me? As your antiquated tome no doubt says, the prosecution may not speak during a summation examination. So I honored a deathly silence and listened to the charade. It seems I overestimated the intelligence of the jury. Well, no matter. There is nothing so hard to prove as a self-evident truth, it would seem. No, and why else would we grace the courtroom with our presence after all? So, let us proceed to the next round of battle. Oh, the cape is off. Bring forth the witnesses once more. Now we're going somewhere. We're gonna get to the bottom of what's going on here. Witnesses, I trust you heard the summation examination we have just had to endure. Oh yes, sir. That I did, sir. Of course I heard it. Oh yes, sir. I heard it. You, sir, on the end. The coachman. I believe it's Beppo. Yes, sir. My lord, sir. If it transpires that in your previous testimony, you were attempting to veil the presence of a fifth passenger on your omnibus, you will be found guilty of perjury. You are advised to bear that in mind, sir. Good on the judge for saying that. Oh mio Dio. Now then, witnesses, I hereby call upon you to testify before the court again. You will explain the various misgivings brought to our attention by the defense's summation examination. I only carried 4 passengers that night, I swear it, but what? Well, I for one was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus. He fiddled us on that fare, he did, and I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much. I tell you, I saw McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands. Oh yes, yes. He stabbed him, yes he did. I think so, yes. Counsel, make sense of this for me, please. The phantom fifth passenger conjured into existence by my learned Eastern friend never existed. The confusion has arisen from the coachman's slight little cosenage. Ugh. Beppo, explain yourself. I'm terribly sorry, Guildmaster. The Guild's fare is 4 pence across the board. You know that. And I too understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny a fare? It's so cold, and the last run of the day is always half empty. You have been dishonest, coachman. I'm sorry. You're a disgrace, Beppo, a disgrace. And your selfish actions brought dishonor on the entire guild. If I may, sir, I had to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week. What? 4 passengers at 5 pence each is, yes, 20 pence. I've done the arithmetic 10 times already, but I just can't make the results come out differently. No, that figures. Well, it would appear that one of the aforementioned misgivings has already been explained. So, counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, if you please. We've already had the pleasure of a protracted summation examination today. No, you don't get to rush this. Court isn't this fast. I see you intend to continue the parlor games. Absolutely. Cross-examination. I only carried 4 passengers that night, I swear it, but,
Hold it!
So, there was only 4 passengers on your carriage, but you didn't charge them the standard 4 pence fare. Is that right? It's impossible to make the last run of the day pay. It was so cold, it was all I could do to stop myself passing out. I'm getting, chill blains just listening to you. It was terrible, so I wanted to give myself a pat on the back for keeping the bus running. Doesn't, Dedicated coachman deserve an extra penny per passenger? You're digging a deeper hole for yourself here. If only there had been a 5th passenger on the omnibus that night, then we would have had another suspect. Well, I for one was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus.
Hold it!
Does that mean everyone on board that night paid 5 pence instead of 4? Well, I paid 5 pence too, sir. Let's question him. And I just told you that I did. A flat, fare of 5 pence across the board. It's not something to be proud of. The so-called discrepancy by learned Fred identified was nothing of the sort. Much like the phantom killer you so desperately needed, it's gone, dead, and buried. Oh man, sorry, guys. I'd have been happy if it had ever existed in the first place. He filled us on the fare, he did, and then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much.
Hold it!
This blood-curdling sight. You mean the murder, I presume. Yes, sir. A loathsome sight. No one should have to witness the horror in the eyes of a man the moment his life is taken. Oh well, not exactly, sir. I mean, I didn't actually see the exact moment the jet was stabbed. Good gracious, really? We have another witness who did, however. The banker has already testified to it. But Mr. First didn't see the point at which the victim was killed. That may turn out to be very significant. I heard the banker gent next to me take a sharp intake of breath. That's why I looked through the glass. That's when I saw that horrible blade poking out from his belly, all covered in blood. Every time I see a knife now, I can't help screaming, even when I'm eating. I tell you, I saw McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands. Let's press this.
Hold it!
So you saw the defendant, Mr. McGilded, stabbing the victim, Mr. Mason, who was sitting next to him. That's what I said, isn't it? It was bothering me before, this was. For just a brief moment, he hesitated before answering the question. Anyway, there was only the 2 of them inside the carriage, wasn't there? There's been much talk of a 5th passenger, but as yet, 0 evidence. Then what are we wasting all this time for, eh? It's black and white, the man's guilty. Something's wrong with his statement. Something about Mr. Fairplay's testimony just jars with me. I wish I could work out what it was. You can certainly see inside the carriage through its opening, that's for sure. Yes, and there's a lamp in the enclosed cabin. So I'm sure the witnesses would have been able to see quite clearly. That's not good for us. Well, let's open the door and go inside, shall we? The scene of a murder? It's horrible. Gotta take a look inside here. That's blood that's soaked into the seat. The victim obviously... Yes, and that seat would be clearly visible from the roof deck. Would you really stab someone in full view of the other passengers like that, I wonder? Well, it was after dark, and there was a lamp on it here, so perhaps the culprit couldn't see anything outside through the skylight. Whichever way you look at it, it doesn't seem like it was a planned attack. Ah, that's a poster for the Great exhibition that's due to start 6 months from now. There's a lot of focus being drawn to the Crystal Tower, the centerpiece of the whole exposition. Oh, the Crystal Tower. It's under construction already, I believe. People all over London must be fizzing with excitement at the prospect of such a grand event. This seat looks reasonably soft, but it's actually rather hard when you sit on it. And only just wide enough for two gentlemen to sit side by side, really. Of course, an English gentlewoman would be dressed in such finery, it would be quite impossible for her to climb up to the roof deck, so she would be seated in here. A woman in a kimono would have the same problem. Women's clothes are very impractical, aren't they? Oh, that's poster for the Great Exhibition that's due to start 6 months from now. Okay. We saw this already here. It's quite a large skylight, isn't it? Yeah, it's quite large enough to afford a good view into the cabin from the roof deck. And there doesn't appear to be a handle or catch of any description, so I suppose it can't be opened from the inside of the cabin at least. So this is the roof deck of the omnibus. Oh yes, you must have a wonderful view of London streets from up here. So people sit all the way up here on a bitter winter nights with the cold air rushing past them. And they have to pay money to do so. I can't imagine how cold it must feel. That just made me think of something horrible. Can you imagine being dragged around the city in the freezing cold as punishment? Perhaps that is the real price you pay to stay out late. I was just thinking of something. If he's a rich banker, why is he writing on top then when he could have just written inside, which would have been warmer? That doesn't make sense to me. Okay, let's see this here. Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it? Well, I suppose they're probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? After all, not everyone in this country is well off. Ah, goodness. What is it? Look at this, do you see the name here? Bruce Fairplay. Should that mean something to me? It does sound strangely familiar, actually. Bruce Fairplay, the witness testifying at this moment. Oh yes, of course, the banker. Why is his name in here? He borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching. It's possible that this is just a coincidence, of course. But could this be very useful information? He's trying to get him, Let's present this now.
Objection!
I guess it's not doing anything there. Why is this not brought up right now, that this is really important to the case?
Hold it!
Earlier you testified that you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you? Oh yes, that's right. You said that the victim was on the floor, and described the assailant holding the knife in an ice pick grip. I suppose I might have, yes, put the cart before the horse, maybe. What's this? Well, I'm quite sure about most of it. I was driving the horses when I heard a scream from the seats on the roof deck. Oh, I expect that was me, sir. Then when I turned around, yes, I saw it through the skylight. The gentleman was on the floor, the knife was sticking up out of his, midriff. That's right, yes, and the fellow holding the handle was the famous man, yes. So in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all. I really thought that I did, but when I go over it again in my head, no, I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing, did I?
Truth!
Oh, this now.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay? Now you listen to me. I know what you're thinking. He didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that, eh? Are you asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered. I might be able to extract some new information from him if I answer him cleverly. Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed? Could he have seen the crime when it happened? I'm just trying to think right now. Could he? So this is the roof deck. Okay, wait. Okay, there's a sheath for the knife. Okay, let's see what this blade looks like. Ah, that looks a lot like blood. It surely is blood, the victim's. Ah, an Englishman's blood looks like a lot like Japanese man's blood. Do you think it wouldn't? Sorry, it's just that we've only just arrived here in Great Britain. I'm finding it a little hard to adjust. Yes, I do understand. An ornate letter M, Mr. Magnus McGilded's initial. As beautifully gilded, too. It must be very valuable, I should think. What is it? Look at this M. If you turn it upside down, it becomes a W. That could change everything. A W. Yes. This is one of those, turnabout cases, I'm sure of it. I'm afraid I don't know at all. But what I am sure of is that this is an M. Oh. Well, that idea was quickly quashed. Could he have seen that? We're gonna save here just to be safe. It is a little hard to believe, certainly. Unless you spend your time peeping through a skylight on top of the omnibus, that is. Peeping. I'm a respectable city banker, I'll have you know. And I know what I saw. I remember as clear as the Ballard day. It was a grim scene, I don't mind telling you. Thank you, Mr. Fairplay. Oh, excuse me if I was getting a little hot under the collar there, my lord. I would ask you to supplement your testimony with a clear statement about exactly what you saw. Oh, I can do that, all right. I'll tell you just how grim it was. You think I'd forget the sight of those blood-soaked hands after that butcher stabbed the man? No, this is, he had gloves on. That doesn't make, no.
Objection!
Blood-soaked hands? Well, I admit their soak might be laying it on a little thick, but... Anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Well, I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay, but that's more than a little peculiar. What? Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGilded, on the night in question. Oh, yes, right. And these certainly does appear to be a sizable dark-colored stain there. But, as I'm sure you could clearly see, it's only on the right-hand glove. Now he's getting nervous. In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony's inconsistent. But no, this can't be right. So you're the liar here then. I like how the jury's helping me now. That's right, you were quite clear about it. You said, huh, it was both hands. Looks like he's gonna bite his stick. Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, it calls your entire testimony into question. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed, but is that really the truth?
Objection!
It was a simple mistake. You can't justify accusing this man of lying. Yes, it wasn't both hands, it was only one, but the fact remains. The victim's blood was on the accused.
Objection!
No, Mr. Fairplay category state that he saw blood all over both hands, which means there's a strong possibility this witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court. Why? I'm a city banker, for pity's sake. My word should be the gold standard. I don't think just because you're a banker, your word is the gold standard. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding members of society don't prevaricate. He's claiming to have no reason to lie. But is that really the case? Mr. Naruhodo, if we had some evidence to explain why Mr. Fairplay might be lying, it could turn the tide in this trial completely. Yup, we do have the evidence. The debt. My lord. Yes, counsel. The defense is ready to present evidence. By Jove, are you sure? Yes, evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had reason to lie in his testimony. Very well. I hereby call on the defense to present its evidence. The evidence that demonstrates a motive for this witness's alleged deception of the court. This, the ledger.
Take that!
Yeah, take that. This is a list of the debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded. Yes, a list of innocent victims crippled by the accused extortion. The point is, among the names of these debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay. What? Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused? No, well, it's barely worth it being called a debt. According to this ledger, you owe 20. Not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say? Ah. Well, what of it? Let's suppose Mr. McGilded were to be found guilty of murder. What would become of your debt in that case? These documents state that the loan agreement is forged between the two individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to a capital punishment, all outstanding debts which were owed to him would be annulled. They would cease to exist, exactly. Cease to exist. Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never saw, in a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 to the defendant? We got him now. All witnesses have been, discredited. Order. Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Yes. My lord. Let me ask you again. And be aware that your answer may have most serious implications upon your future, sir. Did you or did you not See the precise moment in time which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim. Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony. Alright, now let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth a pinch. A pinch? But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on McGilded's hands, both of them.
Objection!
And yet, only one of the defendant's gloves, which we have here as evidence, is stained. So you keep saying. I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir. Go ahead, Mr. First. Well, the thing is, I think I remember seeing it myself, as it happens. Seeing what? The blood, sir, on the assailant's hands. I think, yes. I'm almost sure that it was on both of his hands, not just one. What? They're talking about the killer. It would appear that we're going to need further testimony from all you witnesses. This time, I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Yargs. Mr. Naruhodo, this is good news. The course of the trial seems to have shifted slightly at last. Yes. I might finally have a chance to turn things around here. What the witnesses really saw. There was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired, if that matters. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attackers' hands with blood on them. I didn't exactly see anything myself, no, not until I heard the scream. Anyway, the fact remains. There can't have been anyone else inside the carriage, or we all would have seen. Well, lo and behold. In truth of fact, not one of you was witness to the crucial moment the crime was perpetrated. I apologize, my lord, but honestly, there was no one else inside that carriage, and the man's hands were covered in blood. That much incriminating is tantamount to saying we saw the man do it. That's really not what testimony is about. Let us examine the interior of the omnibus once more. The victim's fresh blood is clearly visible on the seat, corroborating with the witnesses' accounts. In other words, there is no substantial nor significant change in the facts of the case. Very well. Your cross-examination, please, counsel. Yes, my lord. What the witnesses really saw. There was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. Let's press this.
Hold it!
No, the evidence tells us otherwise. We have the gloves the defendant was wearing on the night in question in the court record. I'm well aware of that, sir, but nevertheless, I know what I saw and I stand by it. The man had blood on both his hands. He's defiant, even in the face of hard evidence. He's steadfast, refusing to admit that he might be mistaken about what he saw, but why? Because he saw the killer. Your reasoning is dire. One hand or two, the salient point remains unchanged. Minutes after the grim crime, the victim's blood dripped guilty from the accused fingers. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired, if that matters.
Hold it!
Don't try to downplay this. Whether or not you saw the exact moment of the crime is a matter of fundamental importance, as you well know. But for crying out loud, we all know that no one else could have possibly have done it. I was just trying to save us all some time. You have a loan of 20 outstanding with the defendant, do you not? Had you hoped to release yourself from that financial burden by ensuring that the defendant was found guilty? That's not what I was hoping for. I just lost a little, or when I backed the wrong house in the Derby, that's all. I was gonna win it all back. There's a fixture for this weekend. That's a sure thing. So he's a gambler. Huh. I'm a banker. No one bats an eye if I borrow a little spending money for the weekend. The judge isn't happy. I think you may have revealed rather more about your character than you bargained for, sir. The witness's scruples are not on trial here. Proceed to the next witness. Is that really how it's supposed to work? I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands with blood on them.
Hold it!
You definitely saw that too. Blood on both hands. Yes, sir. I mean, I know what you're going to say. Only one of Mr. McGillis' gloves has any signs of blood on it. That's right. The thing is, as far as I remember, sir, when I looked down and saw Mr. McGillis sitting beside the other fella, I don't believe he was wearing any gloves, sir. He wasn't wearing those gloves. That's correct, sir. And I saw the blood on both his, bare hands quite clearly. It's true the dark colored stain on the dark leather gloves wouldn't have been easy to see. I should point out that the police officer who apprehended the accused on the night in question reported that there was no trace of blood on Mr. McGillis' gloved hands. There wasn't blood on his hands. This is puzzling indeed. This must be significant somehow. I'm sure of it.
Hold it!
You didn't see anything. Oh yes, sir, that is to say, no sir, I didn't. Very sorry about what I said before, sir, very sorry, yes. It was very wrong of me to make up stories and say I saw him stab the man. Wouldn't you agree, sir? I know what you're insinuating, but I certainly wasn't making up stories. Still, to say you saw nothing isn't right either, is it? No, sir, I saw nothing at all. Mr. Beppo, you were driving your horses. At the very least, you must have enjoyed a good view of London streets, no? Oh, please. You didn't even see that? It was so cold that you might see... That night, you see? It was all I could do to keep from passing out, sir. Yes, my head was fairly frozen solid, sorry to say, sir. It would seem prudent to avoid travel on the last omnibus service of London's cold winter nights. Beppo. Ah. There can't have been anyone else inside the carriage or we all would have seen.
Hold it!
And everything you saw of the incident was through the skylight on the roof of the omnibus. That's right, it was fiercely cold that night, but the glass wasn't frosted over. Oh yes, I remember I was shivering, it was so bitter. Which rather begs the question of why the pair of you were sitting on the roof deck in the first place. Well, I don't know about this young fella, but I couldn't enter the cabin. Oh, why not? It was locked from the inside. I tried knocking, but no one opened the door. It was locked. That's right, and it's a public bus service for pity's sake. That's not what I call fair play. Yes, I had exactly the same experience. I tried knocking, but the gent inside was just gestured at me to clear off. So I had no choice but to climb up to the roof deck and look down longingly into the warm cabin below. Well, I can assure you, I was just looking down, I was glaring, long and hard. And that's precisely why I can tell you with absolute confidence that if there was anyone else at all in that cabin, I would have noticed. Unequivocal, I would say. I'm not sure about these two witnesses. Could they really have seen everything inside the cabin through the skylight? They might not have been able to. Allow me to confirm one thing, Mr. Fairplay. You were riding this omnibus and witnessed the events in the cabin through the skylight in the floor of the upper deck, is that right? That's right, yes. In that case, there is a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you. What? By golly, really? Obviously, at this stage, we can't say for sure. but the possibility cannot be denied that at the time of the incident, there could have been another passenger in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus.
Objection!
Enough hypothetical mandering. The prosecution demands that you substantiate your claims. After all, the scene of the crime is here, in the flesh. Very well, I will uphold the prosecution's demand. You will identify the area of this, You will identify the area on this cross-sectional plan of the omnibus. Where exactly in the omnibus do you think the potential extra passenger could have been situated? Let's think this through. If they were both here, they would have seen this from here. So they wouldn't be able to see that well over here. Possibility is right here.
Take that!
Both rows of seats on the roof face in the direction of travel, whereas the seats in the enclosed cabin face each other. Which means the visible part of the cabin, which passengers on the roof deck can see through the skylight, is as I've drawn here. Ah. That's right, my lord. As you can see, the seat opposite the one on which the victim and his attacker were sitting is obscured from view. In other words, if someone had been sitting on that seat, it's quite possible these witnesses would have been completely unaware of it. We got you.
Objection!
It's quite possible some phantom was sitting there. You have a forbidding habit of obscuring the truth ambiguity. I concur with the prosecution's rejoinder. In a British court of law, evidence is paramount. I cannot entertain this conjecture, counsel. That is, unless you're able to put a name to this mysterious passenger to whom you allude. Can you, Mr. Naruhodo? I honestly don't know. Who could it have been? Who could have been in the other seat, which was out of sight from the witnesses on the roof deck? The witnesses on the roof deck. I'm gonna save here just to be safe. I understand, my lord. The defense would like to put forward a name. You are a fool. That response was a desperate attempt by a man who has no notion of his own limitations. A toast to hard lessons not yet learned. Let us not delay, counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat. This could be it. This could be the chance I've been waiting for to turn the trial in my favor. On that night of the murder, the person occupying the seat in the omnibus cabin that was obscured from view was... I'm trying to think right now. This isn't easy right now to think. Who could it be? It's definitely not Susato. It's definitely not Strongheart. It's definitely not the Barrack. That was the part that they didn't see. I have to really think this through now. I can't mess this up. The opposite seat from where the victim and Mason were sitting from. Who could it be? Damn, I don't know who else this could be. We don't have any other names so far. Maybe I kind of threw that out a little too early. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just thinking really carefully. It was the... The seat opposite, the one on which the victim and his attacker were sitting. The seat opposite, the one on which the victim and his attacker. Oh, the victim and his attacker. It could have been Magnus that was sitting there.
Take that!
The passenger in the enclosed cabin that the witnesses on the roof deck failed to see. Has to have been Mr. Magnus McGilded. That's him. Yup. McGilded, because they saw the killer, and McGilded, because I realized it. I was thinking it way too much into it, but the killer stabbed the victim, Mason, from the side. So it couldn't have been McGilded. McGilded would have had to be on the other side. What are you talking about, counsel? That's the name of the defendant.
Objection!
If I desecrate this chamber by smashing my hallowed chalice, do forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Ziex. People talk of those tiny island nations of the Far East having a learning and culture of their own, but I see they use the terms ill-advisedly. What are you trying to say? Let me explain in terms even a student of an artless backwater such as yourself might understand. Man, I can't wait to own this guy. This guy's pissing me off. When the bloody scene unfolded, the victim and his assailant were sitting side by side. Multiple witnesses have attested to the fact. It's the very premise on which this case is built. But that premise may be wrong. What? If the victim really was sitting beside Mr. McGilded, it creates an inconsistency that can't be reconciled in any way. What inconsistency, counsel? The defendant's gloves, my lord. Both witnesses made the same testimony. They claim that there was blood on both hands of the person sitting next to the victim.
Objection!
Yet we know the truth to be otherwise. Only one glove bears the gory remains.
Objection!
The point is, even in the face of the irrefutable evidence, both witnesses have maintained their stance. Yes, their testimony remains unchanged. It means there's a fifth person. They both adamantly swear that they clearly remember seeing blood on both hands of the assailant. In short, their memory of events is correct. Their testimony reveals the truth. It was somebody else sitting beside the victim that night, a third party we have yet to identify. And the victim's blood was on that passenger's hands, both of them.
Objection!
We're getting somewhere now. And who was this third party? Obviously, the true culprit. Extraordinary. Order, order, order. What exactly are...
Objection!
The defense's postulation is just that, nothing more than conjecture. The witnesses have clearly stated they saw the accused.
Objection!
But when elaborating on his testimony, Mr. Fairplay said the two of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. Yes. The tops of their heads were obscured by the roof. I could see the rest of them, though. Yes, that's right. Both gents were most certainly hatted. Hatters do tend to notice such things, sir. And what particular style hats do the two gentlemen sport, Mr. First? I'm afraid I don't remember. And you call yourself a hatter. The style of hat makes no difference. There was no third passenger in that cabin. How can you be so sure? Because if there had been, the accused Mr. McGilded will undoubtedly have offered to depose the fact. Remember, Mr. McGilded was sleeping. McGilded was sleeping, so he wouldn't have known if someone came into the cabin unless he got woken up. That the accused failed to even to notice the presence of the true culprit in the very cabin in which he traveled? He was sleeping. He admitted to us earlier in the case. He's right. If there was another person traveling in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus, it's inconceivable that Mr. McGilded would have been unaware of it. Order. There is clearly a simple solution to this problem. Bring the accused Mr. McGilded to the stand. Well, what do you say, counsel? The prosecution objects, my lord. No, you can't object to that. It's his trial. On what grounds? As a suspect, he will have already made a full statement to the police. But what if there's some reason why he's unable to speak freely? Magnus McGilded is no uneducated ruffian. If it indeed turns out the man has been withholding information, you can be sure of it, it will have been a most deliberate act. Counsel for the defense, what is your opinion? My lord, should we ask Mr. McGilded to testify or not? Demand his testimony. Yes, we need to hear what he has to say in order to find out the truth. The defense would like to call Mr. McGilded to the stand. In that case, I would like to hear the opinion of the jury. Yes. I need a little time to consider this. If you ask me, I think we should hear what Mr. McGilded has to say. Get the man out here, I say. It would be utterly illogical not to hear his testimony. When something needs doing, get it done. That's how I run things at the guild. Hearing what the patron of my favorite little park has to say, oh yes, that would be lovely. Yes, the jury says the man must be heard. Very well, the court will hear the defendant's testimony. Bailiff, show the defendant to the stand at once. Now, maybe what actually happened that night will finally become clear. Let's proceedings be resumed. Mr. McGilded, have you been listening to the discourse of the day? To be sure, I have, my lord. There are now 2 matters on which the court desires to hear from you. The first is whether or not there was a third party with you in the omnibus cabin as proposed by the defense. The second is that if there such a person was indeed present, why did you conceal the fact from the police? He was sleeping. Begad, no. Sorry, guys. This is not my nature to hide anything at all. Just answer the question, please. The truth of the matter is, I've been desperate about this all along. Do I tell yous all or keep me mouth shut? Tell us what, Mr. McGilded? The fine fella representing me is absolutely right. In the carriage on the night with me, myself, and the other man, there was another passenger. It's true. Aye, and 'twas me who helped that little urchin get away after it all happened. You? What? No, Magnus McGilded. That convenient excuse can't save you now. I'm truly sorry, so I am, Lord Van Ziex. I'm sure you'll be wanting to know why I said nothing when I was taken in by the police. I do be having a very good reason, I assure you. Which was? Well, the little child was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and not in any way involved, you see. What? It was a kid? If the police had known the wee one was there, they'd have assumed she'd done it. They'd have hailed her into this here courtroom just like myself. I was only trying to spare her that. Young hearts and young minds are easily damaged, my lord. And who is this young child of whom you speak? That I don't know. You don't know? Aye, well, the wee thing just happened to be in the carriage that night. I never saw her before or since.
Objection!
We have absolutely no reason to believe this man. The prosecution calls for the witness's statements to be disregarded by the court. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the urchin isn't here in this courtroom as we speak listening to the proceedings. What? Smoke. What just happened? I can't see any— What is going on? What the hell just happened? Emergency recess, more emergency. What just happened? We were hurriedly removed from the smoke-filled courtroom by the bailiff. Amid scenes of chaos as people stumbled over one another in the courtroom, we had no idea what was happening. All we knew was that, for the time being at least, the trial was suspended. What the hell is going on? That wasn't a kid. I think he thought that was a kid, but that wasn't a kid. Remember, he said, the person who was in this carriage is in this courtroom right now. And then all of a sudden, smoke just happens. What the hell just happened? Well, we're gonna continue this on the next part, guys, and we're gonna get to the bottom of what happened in this carriage on that cold, wintry night. So thank you guys for watching. I'm enjoying this case so far. I actually think this case is pretty interesting. So thank you guys for watching. On the next part, we're gonna own Barrick and take him down. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care, everyone.